Welcome to the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Tuesday, June 12th. This is Gina McGuire. Today we are not expecting any significant impacts to fire potential, but as we move through the next couple of days, we do have moisture moving north from Hurricane Bud over the eastern Pacific, which will allow enough moisture on Wednesday for isolated dry thunderstorms over southern areas of the Great Basin. Lightning coverage will not likely be very high, however, any thunderstorms we see will likely be on the dry side. On Thursday, this moisture pushes further north, therefore thunderstorms are expected over the Arizona Strip into southern and eastern Utah, and likely thunderstorm coverage will be increasing. We also are expecting thunderstorms to still be on the drier side, especially as you move further north on Thursday. With these thunderstorms, expect gusty and erratic outflow winds. Also on Thursday, we have another system approaching from the west, which will allow winds to increase with low relative humidity over southern and eastern Nevada into western Utah. Looking at the last 24 hours, no lightning has been reported across the Great Basin, with only a few showers up across Idaho. Great Basin fire activity continues to increase. We did have light initial attack yesterday, with some growth on our larger fires over Utah and up into Idaho. Observed precipitation over the last 7 days, very dry conditions over the Arizona Strip, Nevada, Utah, and eastern Idaho. And looking at the last 14 days, the percent of normal precipitation has been well below normal if any precipitation has occurred over the southern half of the Great Basin, with only some areas further north near normal. How this has impacted our fuel conditions across the Great Basin: current ERCs are above the 90th and 97th percentile over much of the Arizona Strip, southern, central, and eastern Utah. These ERCs are near historical highs for the time of year. Further west, ERCs are increasing, but still between the 50th and 80th percentile in most areas. However, our fine fuels are drying out very rapidly due to the warm and dry conditions we will continue to see this week over much of Nevada into western Utah. Looking at live fuel moistures, starting further east over eastern Utah, sagebrush with the very dry conditions we've seen is near historical lows for the time of year. Looking further west into Nevada, sagebrush fuel moisture has likely peaked and will be on the downward trend as we go through the coming weeks. Up into Idaho, we are seeing generally near normal sagebrush fuel moisture, live fuel moisture. However, over parts of southwest Idaho is where sagebrush fuel moisture has been quite a bit lower and well below normal. The satellite loop from this morning shows high pressure dominating the southwest, with a series of troughs moving across the northern tier of the country. You can see some of this moisture up across Mexico, out ahead of Hurricane Bud, which will continue to push northward over the coming days, bringing our return of thunderstorms. In the meantime, warm and dry conditions will continue here across the Great Basin today. Today we will continue to see that high pressure ridge build from the south, bringing slightly warmer temperatures to western areas, along with no increases to fire potential today. We will continue to see single-digit to low-teen relative humidity over the southern half of the Great Basin. However, light winds are expected in all areas. On Wednesday, we start to see that ridge of high pressure build a little bit further north, and down in the southern portion of this image on the left, you can see Hurricane Bud, which will be pushing that moisture further north into the Great Basin. On Wednesday, most of this moisture will be high-based, therefore very limited chances for rainfall, with isolated thunderstorms pushing into the Arizona Strip and southern Utah. Therefore, we have issued high risk for these areas on Wednesday due to the significant dryness of the fuels down there and lightning, again, mainly being on the dry side. Looking at the relative humidity, you can see the single-digit relative humidity over much of the southern half of the Great Basin. So again, that will limit any rainfall potential. On Wednesday, we could see some general thunderstorms in the higher terrain of central Utah. These may be a little bit wetter, but anything we see over southern and eastern Utah on Wednesday will be very dry. On Thursday, you can really start to see that moisture begin to increase. Therefore, we'll see increasing coverage of thunderstorms over southern and eastern areas of Utah and the Arizona Strip. So we have continued our high risk for lightning on Thursday and also pushed those areas of high risk further north into parts of the Uinta Basin. Also, we have a trough of low pressure swinging through the northwest, and this will allow winds to increase with dry relative humidities over southern and eastern Nevada into western Utah. So we have high risk those for wind as well. Looking at these conditions, relative humidity, single digits to low teens across really all of Arizona Strip, Utah, and Nevada. And on the image on the right, you can see those winds increasing, especially over southern and eastern Nevada up into western and central Utah, where gusts will exceed 30 or 35 miles per hour. The overall forecast amount of precipitation for the next 3 days shows again very limited precip. Anything we see with thunderstorms across Utah will likely not produce any widespread areas of precipitation. On Friday, as we continue to move through the week, that moisture streams north over central and the eastern and southern half of Utah and the Arizona Strip. Therefore, we'll continue to see lightning activity on Friday, but we should see those relative humidities increase and better chances for some wetting rains. Therefore, we've removed any high risk on Friday, but just know that continued threat for lightning will exist. We also have a trough moving in, dropping a little bit further south into the northwest on Friday. Therefore, those winds and dry conditions continue over southern Nevada into western Utah, and we will see a return of some showers and thunderstorms with higher relative humidity up north into Idaho. On Saturday, that trough digs a little bit further south. Therefore, we'll see cooler and wetter conditions over Idaho into northern Nevada, continued moisture over eastern Utah, and continued dry and breezy conditions over parts of southern Nevada into southwest Utah. On Sunday, that trough remains in place with very similar conditions. However, it may push a lot of the moisture across Utah a little bit further east with drier conditions later in the weekend. On Monday, again, that trough remains in place with continued cool and wet conditions over northern areas and dry and generally westerly flow over southern areas. You can see the overall forecast amount of precipitation as that moisture from Hurricane Bud pushes north across the eastern half of the Great Basin. Some areas could see significant amounts. Again, that would be mainly later this week and into the weekend, with the thunderstorms initially Wednesday and Thursday being dry. The overall 8 to 14 day outlook shows generally warm temperatures in the west and above normal precipitation continuing over the eastern half of the Great Basin, and this does take us into the third week in June. That concludes our webcast for today. Check back tomorrow for the latest updates.